Welcome back to WJTS News. I'm Jenna Budell. Typically, we're doing our Monday with the Mayor segment right now, but we have a very special guest with us. We're gabbing with the governor. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be with you and Jasper.
It's an honor. So I want to start off with something you've been asked a lot about. It's extremely important. COVID-19 has had a major impact on Hoosier lives. About going on 8 months now that we've really felt the effects. What do you say to people that are against the mask mandate, and what do you say to the people that are for it?
Well, I'll take the second part of your question first, and I say thank you. It's making a difference. It works. It's allowing us to stay open as we are right now. It's allowing kids to be at school, or the students are proving that this can be done. The folks that are enforcing this at their places of business are giving a heightened sense of confidence to customers and to their employees. And we know that these are just very small steps. It's a piece of cloth, I get it. It can be a hassle, it can fog up my glasses, so I completely can sympathize with folks who, wish we didn't have to mask up, but it works. And to those who, reject that science or reject that reality, that this is an airborne transmission of a virus, and this does help slow that spread, I would just try to appeal to them to think about not just themselves, but to think about their neighbors, think about folks they don't even know, and their loved ones, both. And the sooner we get through this and control the spread, number one, the less lives we'll lose, and the lower the cost it'll be on our healthcare system. That's why we had to very early on, when this thing was really spiking and surging at the outset, we had to hunker down. Not everyone in the economy, we didn't shut the whole state down, but we said, look, we've got to build up our stockpile and our inventory of protective equipment, masks, gowns, gloves, ventilators, et cetera, and make sure that our hospital networks could handle the flow of patients that were in need of care. We did that, and that's the good news is we all came together, whether it was church groups who were making masks or businesses that were changing their production lines to accommodate and meet that need. So we're in a much better place, but we know now more than ever that these work. And it's going to, like I said, continue to make sure that our healthcare workers can focus on those who are most in need and protect our capacity to care for all Hoosiers.
Right, absolutely. So my next topic is MidState's Corridor. Now this has been a very hot topic of interest in Du Bois County, and I know surrounding counties as well. Once again, some are for, some are against it. Where do you stand on the MidState's Corridor, and why?
Well, it's obviously, as you know, a very kind of localized, driven idea, and it's a very creative one to try to maximize not just commerce for the area and safety, and address the future of mobility, connecting from one community to the next and to markets far and close. And so I applaud those creative minds and folks stepping forward to say, how can we address the future needs of our community right now? Obviously, there's a process, and folks need to trust the process. We don't have one process for this example and one process for another community example in a different part of the state. So we're still in that study phase. We got to operate just like COVID-19 off the right data and the facts. And so this is in the study phase. That will lead to an economic statement ultimately that will look at what are the needs of these different routes in the corridor that are being proposed. What are the needs? What is the cost? What's the environmental impact of various different routes? That will then in turn open up a formalized public comment period that will also then be packaged, sent to ultimately the Federal Highway Administration. And this is obviously into the second half of next year, 2021. And so the public will have an enormous amount of time for comment. But as a state, obviously this is locally being financed, this study right now, the RDA. Now we have, as we do with projects all over the state of Indiana, NDOT's there to assist and or answer questions and hear from locals as well. And that's what we've been doing throughout this whole process. But citizens of this community, whether and north or south of the community, should trust in the process.
Absolutely. So as governor of Indiana, you have a very big influence with education policy. And you haven't named names on who you would appoint as Secretary of Education, to my knowledge.
You're correct.
But you
As
did
always.
say you would, I like that. You did say you'd choose someone who thinks about education in a holistic sense. So what did you mean by that?
Sure. Well, I'm the product of my mother was a public school teacher, and I had my mother as a teacher in the 3rd grade. So my focus group is bigger than one. But her comments do resonate with me still to this day. And what she and all of my teachers throughout my schooling, one step led to the next. And it was a long pathway, whether it was pre-K or, senior year in high school, post-secondary pursuits. And so what I'm looking at is, how does one piece snap together with the next piece to form this whole puzzle so that our workforce is prepared for the future of work and the workplace, and the worker themselves are prepared for the demand of the future. And so I want someone who understands the languages that's multilingual in the sense of public school education, K through 12. What are the dual credit programs? What are the apprenticeships? What are the programs that lead to this seamless transition from one stage of a person's life to the next? When they have that, I want that high school diploma to be their ticket to success for that next stage, whether it's going into the military, whether it's going directly into a career, here in Jasper or DuBois County or in Randolph County, in Winchester, Indiana. And so and then post-secondary, what are the programs? If someone chooses to skill up and get a credential or a certificate and go into a different pursuit that they're passionate about, could be welding, could be IT, could be life sciences, could be ag bioscience, could be, and the state of Indiana has a number of programs for those individuals as well. And I want this person to be able to work with, of course, the Department of Education, but also with the Department of Workforce Development and the State Board of Education as the overall policy setters, and with the General Assembly, and obviously under my direction. So it's a tall order, but what I will say is it's the foundation for everything else. So we have to get that, the caliber of person has to be ready for that challenge and be able to bring solutions to the table on day one.
Absolutely. So this is something that has affected DuBois County, the next thing I want to talk to you about. And it's also that we're highly ag-based in Indiana as a whole. We know that. In the past, there has been a problem needing to reduce atrazine, other herbicides, from showing up in public drinking water. We've had this very problem right here. So atrazine contamination, it's widespread in Indiana. It's linked to things like birth defects. It's banned in Europe. They did a U.S. survey on the White River. It contains 74% of atrazine. So other states have, for instance, a buffer law. And I'm a little bit more familiar with this just from a science fair project in high school. But Minnesota is one of the states, for example, that has a buffer law. So these buffers, they intercept pollutants, they help keep the water clean, they stop chemicals from entering, and they also reduce soil erosion. What could Indiana do to help this issue?
Well, we can do more than just look at those potential perspectives and what you just shared, but it's important to rewind the tape a little bit here and say that in Indiana, Hoosiers should know that our air and our water is cleaner than it's been since the 1970s, when the Clean Air and Water Acts were both passed. 97+% and 99% cleaner and clean as we sit here today. That doesn't mean that we need to say, well, that 1% doesn't matter. We need to continue, because this is, quite frankly, not just an issue of public health and safety, quite frankly, but it's also an issue of economic development. What we have found is in 2019, we created a water task force that really serves as a hub for all communities around the whole state of Indiana, that concerns itself with not just volume and supply, but also with quality. And then we have the Indiana Finance Authority that has a fund that can loan dollars to communities. Has done over a trillion it's saved about $300 million off of about $1.4 billion in loans to help communities improve their water systems and make sure that that water is ultimately, as you raise, safe for drinking and safe for communities. That's been happening throughout the state of Indiana, and we still have the capacity to do even more. And our IDEM, our Indiana Department of Environmental Management, will continue to, whether it's ag or industrial, whatever sector, will continue to do those tests and make sure that that water is safe. And if it's not, then we, the state of Indiana steps in with local communities to address those issues.
All right. Well, Governor Holcomb, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, talking with us. I hope it was painless.
Yeah. It's always good to be in Jasper, and I'll, I won't pass up the Schnitzelbach.
Oh, absolutely. We're very lucky to have you here right now. So normally on WJTS, we have our Monday with the Mayor segment, but today we were gabbing with the governor. I'm Jenna Budell, and we'll be back with more on WJTS after this.